Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to an all-new explainer. Today, we're embarking on a super fascinating exploration of something you might not hear about on the evening news. The evolving, kind of intense internal politics that are actively shaping the future of money. That's right, we are breaking down the 4 distinct ideologies of Bitcoin. To kick things off, listen to this recent, pretty bold declaration from Michael Saylor. He said, Bitcoin is no longer a narrow technical experiment. It is a global asset. Wow, that perfectly sets the stage for us today, right? We are no longer talking about some niche internet protest. We're looking at a dominant global digital network with massive, high-stakes implications for literally everyone, from everyday individuals to Wall Street and even nation-states.
So here's our roadmap for the explainer. First, we'll look at the idea of a maturing monetary network. Then we're going to do a bit of a character study on the 4 main factions driving this entire space: the maximalist, the capitalist, the technologist, and finally the fundamentalist. We'll wrap it all up by exploring what we call the Great Synthesis. Let's get to it.
Part 1. A maturing monetary network. The splintering of a monolith.
You know, the complete Bitcoin ecosystem is really built on 4 distinct but deeply connected schools of thought: maximalists, capitalists, technologists, and fundamentalists. And here's the thing. As this community grows exponentially, it's just naturally splintering and differentiating. All 4 of these groups share an unshakable core belief in Bitcoin's vital importance, but, well, they differ entirely on the actual route it should take to succeed and scale globally. It's like 4 people agreeing on a destination, but arguing passionately over the map.
Let's look at the first group in Section 2, the Bitcoin maximalist, the conviction keepers.
For the maximalist, Bitcoin is absolutely the dominant digital monetary network. They see it as an ethical, technical, and economic breakthrough all wrapped into one. Their unwavering belief is that this isn't just another crypto asset to trade, It is the incorruptible money, period. To this group, the network stands completely alone as a fundamental instrument of economic empowerment. It's the ultimate answer to the glaring flaws of modern central banking.
Maximalists emphasize Bitcoin as literally the only truly decentralized asset out there. They see it providing superior property rights and acting as the absolute ultimate solution to currency debasement. And by debasement, I mean it protects your hard-earned purchasing power when governments inevitably print too much traditional money. To them, this isn't just finance, it's a civilizational advance. It's a long-term store of value that offers real everyday people a genuine path out of economic oppression and chaos.
But, and there's always a but, right? This supreme moral clarity in their hardcore there is no second best identity comes with a pretty massive blind spot: imprecise integration. See, a maximalist might boldly claim that Bitcoin has already won the war, but that completely ignores the messy, very real danger of how this asset actually functions within existing, real-world institutions, banks, and governments. They confidently define the destination, for sure, but they often just flat-out refuse to debate the messy reality of the route to get there.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Bitcoin capitalist, the integrators.
Now, flip the script. The capitalist perspective is that Bitcoin only reaches its full potential by actively integrating with the global economy. They want it to become an open monetary network for literally everyone. They view it strictly as digital capital. Think about electricity or steel in previous industrial revolutions. Capitalists believe Bitcoin's true power is only fully unleashed when it's deeply embedded into the very fabric of the traditional global economy. So capitalists have this incredibly inclusive, expansionary focus. They are all about integration with massive capital markets, corporate treasuries, and big institutional custody. They want to scale the network aggressively through Layer 2 and Layer 3 innovations. And just to clarify, those are basically secondary networks built on top of Bitcoin to make everyday transactions way faster and cheaper without clogging up the main system. Capitalists are totally fine relying heavily on the self-interested incentives of massive banks and institutions to protect and grow this adoption. The capitalist superpower really lies in their expansionary optimism and their totally pragmatic desire to include the existing financial world. But the natural risks here are colossal. By introducing massive leverage, custodial risk, and reckless financialization, which is basically a situation where paper claims completely outnumber the actual verifiable Bitcoin, they run the massive risk of recreating the exact fragile, broken banking system that Bitcoin was specifically designed to escape in the first place. It's a huge paradox.
Okay, let's pivot to Section 4, the Bitcoin technologist, the innovators.
The technologist operates on the core belief that Bitcoin reaches its full potential through continuous, relentless base layer improvement. It has to evolve as threats evolve. They believe the core protocol is absolutely extraordinary, yes, but it's not finished. In their view, because the broader technological world around us is constantly advancing at breakneck speed, Bitcoin absolutely must proactively evolve too. It requires active, hands-on technical stewardship to simply survive.
Driven by a really strict engineering discipline, technologists focus heavily on scalability, cutting-edge privacy, and ironclad security. Crucially, these are the folks looking way over the horizon. They are desperately preparing for future existential threats, like what happens the day when quantum computing becomes powerful enough to actually crack current cryptography. It's the technologists who are driven to identify and solve these massive technical problems long before they can ever threaten the network.
While this constant technical progress definitely prevents stagnation, it brings a terrifying, specific danger of its own. It's called iatrogenic harm, which is a medical term that actually means damage caused by the treatment itself. The immense risk here is that totally well-intentioned protocol updates could accidentally introduce bugs that destroy Bitcoin's core stability. Think about it. When you try to upgrade the very foundation of a trillion-dollar network, even a tiny, microscopic mistake can be absolutely catastrophic.
Moving on to our final faction in Section 5, the Bitcoin fundamentalist, the Guardians.
The fundamentalist truly believes Bitcoin only reaches its full potential by remaining strictly, unyieldingly true to its core principles. For this group, absolute purity is the entire point. Their mission? To protect the original monetary revolution from being diluted by Wall Street suits or ruined by Silicon Valley-style move fast and break things technical experimentation. They view themselves quite literally as the absolute last line of defense against corruption. Their core focus is a fierce, almost uncompromising defense of individual sovereignty. They heavily emphasize self-custody and running personal nodes. And what that really means is ordinary users maintaining their own independent record of the ledger to verify transactions themselves rather than just trusting a third-party bank. They demand absolute decentralization and censorship resistance, remaining deeply, deeply skeptical of any intermediaries. To the fundamentalist, using Bitcoin as pure peer-to-peer money without middlemen isn't just a preference. It is absolutely non-negotiable. This fierce guardianship successfully protects Bitcoin's soul, right? It beautifully defends its first principles. But the huge risk here is exclusionary isolation. By remaining too closed off and rejecting literally all institutional integration or user-friendly technical improvements, they might perfectly protect the network's purity. But at what cost? The terrible cost might be shutting out billions of everyday people around the world who simply lack the hardcore technical skills to self-custody safely.
All right, let's bring it all together in Section 6, the Great Synthesis, a balanced ecosystem.
When you step back, you realize a healthy ecosystem desperately needs all four of these competing forces. It's an incredible balancing act. The maximalist provides conviction by constantly asking, what has Bitcoin proven? The capitalist drives real-world adoption by asking, how does it integrate? The technologist sparks vital innovation by asking, how should it improve? And the fundamentalist ensures preservation by asking, how do we protect the core principles? Stripped of any single one of these pillars, the entire structure becomes incredibly vulnerable.
Which, of course, poses the ultimate question for us today. What is the strongest path forward? How on earth do we reconcile this intense, conflicting need for conviction, integration, innovation, and preservation without completely fracturing the entire network?
The answer seems to lie in a strategy of disciplined expansion. Let's break it down. First, treat the base layer as sacred, basically unchangeable infrastructure. Second, push almost all new, risky innovation to higher layers built on top of it. Third, no matter how much giant institutions get involved, always protect the individual's fundamental right to self-custody. And finally, a provocative thought to leave you with, we must ensure Bitcoin remains Bitcoin even while the rest of the world builds massive empires on top of it. You see, the mission isn't to choose between pure ideological purity and global adoption. It's to perfectly balance both. And honestly, how this community manages that incredibly delicate balance will ultimately decide the entire future of money. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.